what you're looking at right now are the 9 cards that have been leaked as changed in a future Marvel Snap patch. That patch was supposed to come out today being, I believe, it was either going to be Tuesday or Wednesday, so either today or yesterday. I'm recording this on Wednesday the 4th. And these cards have been confirmed to be changed by a localization leak. And then Ben Brode on Twitter later confirmed that they were actually the cards that they were going to be changed and that the patch notes were roughly correct. So at this point, I feel like I can actually talk about this. I wasn't going to talk about it until we had some kind of confirmation, but now we do. For those who don't know, I'm KMBest. Finished ranked 201 last year. Oh no, I finished 200. I ranked 200 plus Marvel Snap player every single season. That's actually true. Every season I've been ranked 200 plus. We're going to go through all the changes. We're going to tell you what they're going to be, and then we're going to talk about them. So the first one on the docket is Nova. Nova is getting changed from a 1-2 to a 1-1. And that is, I think, actually a pretty deserved change. People like to meme on this one, like, why did they nerf Nova? They didn't need to nerf Nova, but, like, why does it need to have 2 power? Why does it need to have... Why does this card need to have no downside, basically? A 1-2 is an average stat line. Like, 1-2 with upside, that's fine. And Nova is one of the most played 1-drops in the game. So, I think this nerf, people like to meme on it. I think it's fine. I think you should pay a little bit more of a cost to act. Like, it is very clearly a card you put in your deck to blow up, so who really cares? I think that's a pretty fine nerf. People are memeing on it. I think it's fine. Hazmat, currently a 2-1, is going to a 2-2. She's going to have 2 power now. I think this is a good buff. I think this is a good buff. Hazmat decks have not been very strong, despite the fact that everyone seems to think that they are enough to play it. I'm not sure this buff does anything, but at least it shows that they recognize that that is a thing they want to promote, and that it's a little underpowered right now. I think that's a totally fine thing to do. I don't really think I'm going to be playing a lot of Cerebro 2 with Hazmat, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if it does anything, but it at least shows they recognize, like, hey, this is a synergy that's in our game, and it's really underpowered, and we'd like it to be a little bit cooler. On a similar note, Nakia is getting a buff from being a 3-cost 1-power card to being a 3-cost 2-power card. I think that's good. I think that's a good buff. They kind of obliterated her. For those who are unaware, in the beta, she used to buff every card in your hand by 2, and was one of the very best cards in the game. So, when they nerfed her, they really took a hammer to her, and I'm glad they're sort of experimenting with pushing her back up a little. I think that's good. I appreciate her being a little better. I think in the beta, gameplay was so focused around late power explosions, and now it's very much not, that she's a card that can exist again, and I think it's good. I think it's good that she can. Black Cat is getting a buff to 3-7. This one doesn't make sense to me. I just sort of think a card with her text is totally unplayable. It is, regardless of whatever, like, A, a card with her text is unplayable. B, in order to put her to the power level that she would need to be playable with this text, you would have to make her so broken it would be the most annoying card in the game, right? She's good in a Hella deck, which I don't really think you want to buff by doing this. I just feel like they need to make her downside less significant in some way. If you ever want someone to play this card outside of a Hella deck, I don't know how buffing her power helps. Going Null in Hella decks, I don't know how she works with Null. As far as Hella, she would already go in that deck. The 7 doesn't really change anything. Groot and Drax are getting pretty much the same change. Groot is going from a 3-3 to a 3-4, and his on reveal is getting nerfed a little bit. It is now going to add +2 power instead of +3. Drax going from a 4-4 to a 4-5. On reveal also getting nerfed a little bit, going to only add 3. So what what these do basically is put a little bit more power in the body and a little bit less power in the on-reveal effect. They're reasonable buffs. As far as people might ask, you know, why wouldn't you do that to Raccoon and Star-Lord? Because they're already, those are the ones that are like playable. Those are the ones that are like competitive with other things at their spot. And Drax and Rocket are not. They just are not. It's a little less downside when the card misses. That's fundamentally what the change is here. I don't know if that'll make them more played. Drax is already starting to see some play in Zabu decks. Rocket is just not seeing play at all. I don't mind just taking cards that do not get play and just tuning them up a little bit. I think that's fine. Or Groot is just not seeing play at all. Tuning cards that don't see a lot of play up a little bit, I think that's fine. I think that's fine with me. So now we get to the heavy hitters. These are the cards that most people are going to be talking about in this patch. These are the cards that most people are going to be complaining about in this patch. These are the cards that 90% of the comments on this YouTube video are going to be about in this patch. Let's get to it. Aero is getting moved from a 5'8" to a 5'7". Many people will argue this is not a big enough change for her. I am unclear on if those people are right, but my big contention is that Aero is fun. Aero is a card that interacts in fun and unique ways. It's good to have a way to control where cards are placed in the metagame, and generally people seem way less mad about her than they do about Leader, who is a card that is not very fun, even for basically anyone involved. So I think there is something to the idea of leaving her as untouched as possible because she represents something truly unique at the 5-drop slot and a way for control decks to really interact. For those who are unaware, she used to be a 5'6" before she received the buff. I don't think this affects her too much. There are some edge cases where it will matter, but tuning her down just a little bit seems like the right approach to me. Now we move on to the big guy, Galactus. So Galactus is going from a 6'3" to a 6'2", and I'm actually pretty sure this is a buff. Galactus, one of the ways Galactus decks lose is by getting their Null, Shang-Chi'd, or Rogued, or Enchantressed. And the less you have priority on the final turn of the game, the more you will be able to just play your arbitrarily large Null and just win the game. So, like, the thing with Galactus is it tends to win with either the combination of, like, say, Death plus Shang-Chi, Death plus Cosmo, or just Null, right? And all of those are better if you don't have priority, meaning your cards are revealed second. So that seems like something that could actually help the card just a little bit to me. I don't know if it's, like, going to be super significant. I can't think of a ton of ways in which it, like, ever matters. But there are going to be some games where it does. And that is worth pointing out. It also, I mean, like, there's some argument that it keeps the Leader versus Galactus matchup a little bit more even. Because Leader having one more point of power than Galactus as it exists in the current game allows you to, like, try to come back from Galactus games. Which brings us to our final change. This 6'4" Leader is going to be a 6'3". It is not going to change much about whether or not I play the card. I very much still expect to be playing this card in the future if it was there. Now, a lot of the discourse has been, why didn't they hit Leader hard enough? Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? I get the sense that, and I believe it has been intimated on Twitter, but I haven't confirmed, that these are sort of placeholder changes just to tune them down a little bit and then see if Zabu shakes up the meta enough that these cards are worse. For example, Leader is really bad into Darkhawk. Really bad. And if Darkhawk becomes a dominant meta force, then Leader is going to get way worse. If this is the thing I think most people are mad about, and it's that this card still exists. Now, I think my general take on all these nerfs is that they're not making a ton of changes, and I think that's okay. That said, if it turns out Leader is farming, like, I guess you'd say Pool 3 Zabu decks, just like he farms a bunch of other stuff, if it turns out Leader is just making this new card unplayable for anyone who doesn't own Darkhawk, which, to be clear, I kind of think Zabu is a little unplayable if you don't own Darkhawk, which that's a conversation for another time, but it's very frustrating to me. Then they'll have to revisit this. They will have to revisit this. Now, it's not as meaningless of a change as people think it is. There are definitely a lot of games that can be decided by 1 point. We just lost on this stream earlier today a Leader game because our Leader had 3 power thanks to a Scorpion. That just happened. It's not meaningless. It's more impactful than the people who say it's meaningless think. But I think when they say it's meaningless, what they mean is it's not a good enough nerf, and I think that is likely to be correct. Now, I am happy they didn't nerf anything too hard, because introducing a card like Zabu into the game really changes the context of a bunch of things. But we will have to see if Zabu isn't enough to make Leader go away. They will have to make further changes. Now, I personally think Zabu is an incredibly strong card. It's very good at getting ahead early, and that's the kind of stuff that beats Leader, right? If you're still very far ahead, and they play Leader, it doesn't matter. Like, if you played, like, a bunch of dudes and you're up, like, 10 power in each lane, Leader doesn't do a damn thing. Now, I would be interested to see if they need to tune him down again. I think it is very plausible that they do. But generally, I would say my take on Leader nerfs is that I'm glad they didn't do anything too big too immediately. That's pretty much what it is. I was hoping he would get brought to a 6-2. After playing all of these Zabu decks, I am now, like, Leader might be the good guy now. I know I'm going to get killed for saying that, but, like, this guy might be the good guy now. We don't know. And so, when a card as meta-shaking as Zabu comes out, I do think they should take time to figure out where things go before completely deleting cards. That said, if it ends up the way it did last season, they'll have to take another look at this guy.